And welcome to the latest episode of From the Rubble, my post-apocalyptic Let's Build series based in heavily modded Minecraft. And if you're a regular fan of the series and you've watched the last episode, you saw my plan for this series and specifically for this installation. And so now you understand that there is a plan, and you understand the method to my post-apocalyptic madness. Now, with all that said, putting what I'm doing now into that context, we are at the very bottom of the base in that central core, the central core which serves as the conduit that runs through all the levels of the base so that you can get up and down to whatever level you want. And with all that said, the goal for today is to try to get as far as I can on getting this first level completed. But it's not quite as cut and dried as all that, because part of what we're trying to do here is kind of establish a template, kind of establish the norms, the standards that we're going to use throughout the rest of the build. And since we're building completely in light gray concrete, I've enlisted the help of the guys at the Chip Mod to come up with some variant light gray concrete pieces to add some texture and some variety to the view. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what I want to do here is plop in some drains. Right, they're not going to be actual drains, but for visual appearances. And then let's see, that would be here. And likewise, we have some surfaces. Which you change these to drains. They're over here. Here we go. They also look like vents too, so you might put those on walls. And I told you I would go ahead and add the Chip Mod light gray concrete to the allowed list on Dominum Ornamentum. So I did, and now we can make slabs and panels and all sorts of other weird things with these light gray concrete blocks from the Chip Mod. So but my point here is the structure is going to be primarily made from light gray concrete, so we'll be going through a lot of it. And if I use the basic vanilla light gray concrete block, this would be an extremely boring looking setup. But now I kind of came up with a theme for the walls, but there's a lot of floor space that's just blank. So I'm kind of thinking that I would like to put something like around the edge of the floor, right, to kind of give it a texture where like almost like a curb, but it's not a curb, right, because it's gonna be flat. So, but just kind of denote where the street is and where the street isn't. So what I'm gonna do is bust out some edge pieces on the side of the road here, and let's try this. So these are the same panel blocks as I use up on the wall, and I think they look good. Right? They add a decorative border without being too obvious. So we'll just go ahead and knock out all the border pieces on this segment of roadway. Excellent. Let's see how this looks. Yeah. There are times when you want some pretty stark contrast, and there's times that you don't want stark contrast, but you want some contrast. And this is one of those latter cases. So let's knock these pieces out all the way around. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, and recently I've been watching some people with similar content, and then on top of that, I was playing a game called Icarus, and all these things kind of dovetailed together, where I started thinking about the idea of not necessarily a scripted series, but a series that is still a let's build, yet has storytelling and role play elements in it, right? Kind of like what Paul Soares Jr. does, but actually a little more story driven or plot driven or character driven than what he does. But I mean, yeah, he's somewhere between where I want to be and where I am. And so if you're familiar with his work, I hope that's your stomach. Oh, hey, you're unauthorized. This is a secret military installation. You are trespassing. So, this edge looks pretty darn good, I think. So, I think that's the goal. So, now we got to step up, right? This is going to be a ramp that coils around the central core and up that you could drive on. But it's got to go up 7 blocks, and I'm trying to figure out the breakdown, like at what point do I use slabs, at what point do I use full blocks. So 1, 2, that's a full block, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. That's not enough, so I will kind of have to break it down even more, right? So like this one would be half a block, whole block, 1.5, 2, maybe landing, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, or so that would get us 6. So that's close. We need to go up 7. So I guess in the landings I would have to raise up as well. But for that we'll need, since we'll be doing large patches, we don't want to use stairs. We'll want to use slabs because we're going up gradually, you know. And I'm wondering, we should take some of these chipped blocks and we can use them. Make sure 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Plus the torch is 8, so 4 and 4 to make a full transition. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh boy. Another mob wearing a sophisticated backpack with a jukebox upgrade. We get that a lot around here. So 7 across, 8 deep, 4 rows of slabs and 4 rows of full blocks. So we said we're going to use these panel pieces for the edges. So let's see how this works or looks. Oh, look at that. Well, they wrap once we make them a full block, but they the textures don't merge as slabs. That's kind of what we wanted. We can't change them back or to something else. Let's try a different texture. Let's try these smooth ones. They have a very, very slight border on the very, very edge. Let's see how. Oh no, they look like flagstones. Okay, So I think what we might have to do is just use vanilla light gray concrete for the actual street surfaces. And let me check something here. Let's take these grid pieces though, because I wanted slabs and I wanted panels because I wanted to make the walls have kind of a 3D effect, right? So let's see if we at least get that. So I can put a slab here, right, to make it looks like well, let's try panels and slabs. So let's see if we can get, so the panels looks like it lays there just fine. Slab, oh, slabs are there, but they're invisible. That is completely not what I want. Oh, and I don't get them back, even with an axe. But the panels looks, yeah, the panels are okay. So let's try this. Let's just apply these panels all down this segment of wall. And let's take a look at them. I mean, they don't stick out crazy far, but they do definitely have a 3D effect to them, right? Which looks better than just the flat wall pieces. So, I guess that is our standard. Oh, so I'm glad. Oh, yeah, I can put these down horizontally. I just can't do them on walls. Okay. So adding those blocks, to Domino Ornamentum was not a complete waste of time, which is good, I guess. So that's how that looks. Okay. This one is gonna only get half because the rest will be covered by a wall. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I think we just need to see what we can do about the regular floor, regular roadway. So let's change these into the panel variant so that we can build this wall, because this is the bottom level, so we won't need this end of the ramp to be open. This is the end of the line, but the panels will then match the other walls we have. Okay. And light gray concrete presumably can be made into slabs without any problems. Yep. Okay. So let's try this. See how it looks. The color's a little bit different, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? So we'll get some decent contrast, I think. But that means we'll have to replace all this too. And this is the type of details that it's not covered by my Excel spreadsheet. That's kind of showing you big picture and the general layout. But we're down to implementation details now. So we'll try to do this quickly and efficiently. So I was saying, so I've been watching other people's channels and the content they generate, and I really do like some of the story-driven content I've seen on those channels. Now, the trick is, like, a lot of times the story-driven content is highly edited story-driven content. In other words, they have a script and they have a whole plot and roles and stuff, and it's not a let's play at all. They use Minecraft or whatever game as essentially their sound stage to set up scenes and actions that they then edit together with some audio voiceovers and such to produce what's essentially a game-based episodic television program. So I mean, they sometimes they're in creative, sometimes they're in survival. What you see is what was intended to be seen, right? It is part of the scripted story. Nothing wrong with that, but it got me thinking that, like I was talking about with Paul Suarez, maybe there's room for a notch below that, which is make room for my drain here. You have scripted, not necessarily scripted content. It's unscripted content. However, it's in the context of a story arc that you've already defined. In other words, you defined the world, you defined what's going on in that world, points of conflict and such, and you've defined some characters, and now you're playing one of the characters in the world. So, but the story is not really scripted. It's kind of like everything I described is the session zero, like I call it. The premise that sets it all up, and then after that you play your let's play. But now when you're playing your let's play, it's not just I'm building this for the sake of building this, or I'm gonna try to get to the end in 5 minutes, or any of that type of stuff. Now it's like you've set your characters and story in motion, and now you play the game in regular let's build or let's play fashion. And the events in the game drive the story. So, in this case, if I did that, I would be very much as unaware of where this thing's going as you would be, right? There's a certain appeal to that for me, because that's very much what tabletop role-playing games are. Not computer role-playing games, but tabletop role-playing games are very much that, right? Your DM, referee, whatever you want to call them, they let's wherever there's going to be passage of people or vehicles, we want to set it up so that it looks the same as the street, right? So that shows you where you can go in and out. I think that looks good. But in a tabletop role-playing game, right, the DM, the referee, whatever you want to call them, they've set up exactly like I just described. They set up the whole premise. So they've got a world defined. They've got the key players identified. They know how things work, what the conflict is, and then the players come in, and they've done the same thing for their specific player, and then you say, mark, set, go. And now what happens, nobody really knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen until it does happen. And then people adapt and adjust. And that's fun. That is like, for example, The last time I refereed a campaign, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, and I put one sideways, and now it's invisible. I'm gonna be lost, I guess. Yep, gotta be careful. So the last campaign I refereed, I had a plot in mind. I kind of figured this is where I will try to guide the players. Try being the operative word, because they were following the clues and hints pretty darn well up until they were in the lair of that guy's back, and he's close this time. Anyway, so they were in the lair. I wouldn't necessarily call him the bad guy, but he was certainly one of the less than good guys. And they were in his lair, and he's a criminal overlord. And, I mean, they're in the middle of his huge labyrinthine lair. And for whatever reason, they decided to shoot one of his contractors right there in front of him. I mean, they just didn't think it through. And, you know, what do you do? I mean, if we gone strictly by the rules, they would have been overwhelmed by guards and murdered, right? On the spot. But I had to wing it. And in this case, because, we had some new folks in there, people who are new to tabletop role-playing. So I didn't want to make it a definitive, you're all dead type of thing, because they aren't going to learn nothing that way. So I had it so they were overwhelmed and subdued. And then the criminal guy, the underworld boss, he basically had them tied up and dumped in the pen of some predators at the local zoo. And the characters were able to they were able to wake up from being unconscious, and were able to quickly and quietly break free and get out of the pen without waking the predators sleeping nearby. So I gave them a chance to survive. They survived, but none of this was expected, right? I mean, I kind of had to wing it. That's a good DM or referee is ready to wing it at a moment's notice, because you never know what your players are going to try to pull. And sometimes there are acts of sheer unqualified brilliance, and sometimes you just have to wonder if you should start requesting drug testing. It's like, but seriously, okay, we'll let you do that then. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. But getting back to the series, this type of improv is I think it's fun. I think it adds to the value, the uniqueness of this. So I really want to kind of try it now. So then the question is, okay, how and when do you expect to do this? Well, I don't know yet. That's the part that I'm still trying to work through. What I'm thinking is there are some series that I currently have going that could fit into this fairly well, right? We could just kind of drift into it and without a whole lot of fanfare or anything, and smooth, easy transition. That'll be fine. So New Londinium, I don't think so. What's the plot of a guy building an entire steampunk city, right? But it does have some elements. I'm still worried about those cultists and stuff. So I would kind of classify that like in the Paul Soares category. There is some role-playing elements, but it's not that strong. Greifenhorst, okay, there's some potential there, right? This one, oh yeah, there's lots of potential here, so we can do that. I mean, I woke up in my underground bunker after, a century or so, and had to escape because it was flooding, and now I'm single-handedly trying to bring back civilization, so that works. What about my other series? There are Rediscovered. That's always been kind of a storytelling element, but it's kind of hard to tell a story if there's nobody else in there, right? And there is lore, but it doesn't exactly kind of like come out front and bump you on the head. It's kind of hidden. So yeah, that one kind of, sort of. Parks will plenty. No, that's just, we're building amusement parks. I mean, you could try to make a story out of it, but that's not really what it is. Near Mist, which is our playthrough, or let's build in Enshrouded. We could, but and some Enshrouded people are going to freak out when I say this, but it doesn't have strong story elements in the first place, right? I mean, I was just kind of going along with it, but really more it's about a guy playing a game, and we know the guy is playing a game, and the guy's talking about the game. So, and maybe I'll think about that one. Let me see, what else have we got? So Mostly Satisfactory. No, I've already, again, there's really nobody to riff with or on. Except for the AI and the corporation I work for in that game. It's just me working on automation. I don't think there's a lot there to work with. On the flip side, though, am I missing one? No. On the flip side, though, the game that kind of got this all started, Icarus, I think there's some excellent storytelling to be done there. If you ever saw or read the book, My Side of the Mountain, right? I mean, it's an old movie. I think it was the early 70s. It might have been the late 60s. I read that book like in 6th grade, and oh man, I loved the story. I wanted to be that kid who had run off and was living in the woods on his own, right? And there was a lot of story to tell there, and I kind of think like the Icarus thing would be something similar. I actually kind of have a basic plot in my head as to how I wind up on Icarus involuntarily. And, then the story would be a guy who's essentially stuck on Icarus. And, there's the survival. I can't find that guy. He's making a lot of noise, but I can't find him. Anyhow, so a guy who gets stuck on a terraformed moon. He wants off, but realistically there's no avenue for that to happen. I mean, that's how he got there in the first place. So he's just going to have to make the best of it. And in Icarus, the first first month is all about survival, right? And eventually you can, focus less on surviving and focus more on thriving, but it takes some time. And it's a science fiction series, right? Because it takes place about 150 years from now. So there's a lot I could do with that. And here's the thing, right? What the main character says, does, and knows, I don't plan on really going too far out of my way to make stuff up. It would be certainly a guy with a different name than mine, but what the guy says and does, it's 80 or 90% me, right? Because, I never claimed to be a famous actor or anything like that. So it'd be like, especially because it is still a let's build, let's play. So, I can't come up with really crazy, witty dialogue and such while I'm moving my guy around, trying not to get killed. So, anyhow, it'll be an interesting experiment. I haven't committed to doing it yet. I'm just, I'm talking to you because I've been thinking a lot about it. But the reason I am thinking a lot about it is I like I said, I've been watching other people's channels. Nobody really has anything quite like that. But as I watch a lot of their scripted content and stuff, I start to think, man, I think I would really love to see some content like that. And so maybe if I can start doing it, maybe there might be some other people who go, that's kind of a cool idea. I want to do that too. I'd love to see more people do it. I mean, it's a pretty roundabout way of saying I want to watch more TV shows like X, so I will produce a TV show like X. Hopefully other people will make it, and then I can watch them. But it's kind of like, I want to eat more cake, so I'll start making my own cakes, and hopefully other people make cakes I can eat. It's like, well, why don't you just eat your own cake? But yeah, it's not a perfect analogy, but it kind of points you where I'm thinking, where I'm headed. So, man, I am sucking up the materials here, I'll tell you that. So, we'll have to deal with this later, but we got to open this up so we can build upwards. There's an emerald back there. Anyhow, with all of that said, hopefully you were listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, right? I'd love to hear, and it's not just your thoughts. It's not just like a straight up yes, no. If you've seen something like this in your own experience, well, by all means, share. And better yet, if it's somebody that's out there now, point to it, right? Let the rest of us go take a look and see. I think there's no monopoly on good ideas, so let's share what you got. Nice. The thing is, I always thought of cozy and survival as two distinct and separate genres. And in fact, distinct to the point that they're almost mutually exclusive. Almost. But in the past year, what I've been finding, starting with my experience of Vintage Story, and then, I've been trying some other, what I would call hardcore survival games. And not that they're hardcore like you die, you're done, but hardcore in that you have to eat or you die. You have to drink or you die. Temperature is a thing and you can die. Stuff like that. That's I mean, compared to Minecraft, where even on normal level, you can't die from starvation. You can get really darn close and somebody looks at you wrong and you're dead. But even in default Minecraft, the temperature, well, until they introduced deep snow, temperature wasn't a problem. Well, I mean, realistically, lava's a problem, but that's not really a survival mechanic. That's kind of a common sense mechanic. You jump in the pool full of lava. Good luck. Anyway, but I used to think of these two genres as distinct to the point of being almost mutually exclusive. And now I've discovered that many of these hardcore survival games that I've actually been playing, I'm getting the deepest, best, and generally most satisfying cozy vibes I've ever had. And this is from a guy who has a few hundred hours of Stardew Valley under my belt, right? I love that game for the coziness. whoa. It's not cozy. It's not cozy. So what do they teach you day one of Minecraft? Don't dig straight up. Don't dig straight down. What have I been doing? Digging straight up and not down. Okay. And I'm just, shooting the breeze, gabbing. But I had a shovel. I had a shovel. I don't have a shovel anymore. I think we'll go get one. Anyway, let me know your comments. And along those lines, if you have a type of series or genre or something that you're most interested in, share it. Let us know. I mean, I'm not necessarily going to do it, but it's good to know. It's this pollination of ideas, right? Give me some new ideas. Get the creative juices flowing. Get it might mesh with something else I've already been thinking about or working on. Yep. Anyway. And that kind of gives me an idea. So if you have any idea who this guy is and where he is, let me know. So if you have we all have stories that we've enjoyed listening or watching or whatever. So if you got some, if you have some, well, just I'm not even gonna put limits on it. If you have a favorite story or something, go ahead, just share it with the group. Put it in the comments, right? Tell us what you like, and of course, most people I think enjoy the big ones, like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or something. Yeah, what I'm looking for here is the type of story that maybe it's not your absolute favorite, right? But rather just one that you really love that maybe most people have never heard of, right? Those hard to find stories. A long time ago, back when I was at Microsoft as a full-time employee, we were working on OneNote. I was on the OneNote team, the original OneNote team, in fact. And one of the things that our manager came up with is that what we'd do is once a month we'd all have lunch together in a conference room, and while we were eating lunch we would watch a movie together, right? Now, but the thing is that this is exactly the type of movies we were tasked with bringing to the team and watching together. So people would say, hey, here's this movie I loved ever since I was a kid or whatever, and we'd watch it, and it was. Now, some of them, we'd all seen before, but most of them, people were picking movies that were broadening the horizons for all of us. One of my favorite movies that I actually learned about as part of this little effort was Strictly Ballroom. It's a little B movie made out of Australia. It's about ballroom dancing. Semi-professional or amateur ballroom dancing, which is a thing that I had never ever really heard about or thought about before, but it's occurring in Australia, and there's this whole plot around it, and I won't give it away, but the idea was Strictly Ballroom was about kind of like the paradigm of this ballroom dancing, and there was a guy who he was probably like the best dancer of them all, but he was getting tired of dancing the same old way, Strictly Ballroom. He wanted to spice it up with his own moves and stuff, and that's what the whole movie it's kind of like, in Footloose, the kids weren't allowed to listen to music or dance. And in this one, they are allowed to listen to music, dance, but it's got to be a very specific type, right? And he is, but otherwise it's very footloosey. So if you got something like that would be fabulous. I mean, some really great movies that stick with you over the years. Those are the types of movies that it used to be really hard to watch because, I've talked about this in the past. Back in the days before streaming, you couldn't watch something unless it was on somewhere, right? And it was on a schedule. So these were the types of movies that you'd find someplace, you watch, and then you'd only get to see it that one time, right? It might be years before you get to see it again because these are the types of movies that aren't necessarily released at movies over and over and over again, or they might be so obscure that you don't even have. You might even have touch laryngitis. Let's see if we can find this guy. Okay, that guy just drives me nuts. Oh, he's down here, it sounds like. Oh, he's down here now. Is that it? I mean, it sounded like a whole handful of those guys. Okay, no, just, Oh, yeah. So, kind of in a similar vein, I kind of brushed against this briefly in the last episode of Parks of Plenty, but, the industries, the big industries. So now video games are a big industry. TVs, movies, radio, music. They're all big industries. And there's a cycle, right? The big names are the ones that produce kind of like cookie cutter content. I call it cookie cutter content because they're not interested in artisanal stuff. They're not looking at trying to create something new or something that's thought-provoking or gender-defining. They're looking at something that makes money, right? And you've seen it in the movies lately, right? I mean, how many times can we reboot Batman and Superman? Or Spider-Man, for that matter. In other words, these guys, they have an IP that they know people like, and instead of coming up with something new, they'll take what was proven successful in the past, just kind of tweak it a little bit, and publish it all over again, right? It's kind of like selling you the same candy bar over and over, and it just kind of changed the wrapper a little bit, and you're like, oh yeah, this works. And I mean, yeah, it works for them. It makes money, and as long as it does, they will keep doing it. But as consumers, right? People kind of get tired of that. And part of what brought this all up was I like to watch Bellular News, right, on YouTube. It's a video game news channel, and they were talking about what's going on with the game Payday 2, where Payday 2 is a decade-old game, and Payday 3 is out, and yet you would think, okay, well, Payday 2's done, and Payday 3 it is. But no, they are putting a renewed effort in content and everything else into Payday 2. And the bottom line is kind of underscores what I was just talking about, which is we live in a world full of choices, right? I mean, there's 8 billion people on the planet. We've all got some free time. A lot of those people spend that free time watching movies or streams or playing video games, listening to music, reading books. And they have a choice, right, as to what they listen to, watch, read, whatever. Now, the industries, like I just described, they keep throwing out the same stuff over and over again. rehashed in different ways, maybe. Not much. And people keep buying it, so they keep doing it. But now there's kind of like something's happening in the video game industry where, you know, if you're like me, you probably have a Steam account or a GOG account or both. And if you go out there, there might be a dozen, 2 dozen, or in my case, a couple hundred games in your library, right? And again, if you're like me, maybe you haven't even played all of them, but maybe you have played all of them. But the bottom line is you got a lot of content already. And in the end, you have a limited amount of time. If you're not finding any of the new stuff that's punching the buttons for you and making you happy, what are you going to do? You're going to go back and start playing the old stuff. Maybe stuff you haven't played in years, maybe stuff you haven't played before, but you bought on a sale or something. Anyhow, the point is, that's who the game companies are competing with. We've been at this long enough now that you're no longer limited to just what comes out today, tomorrow, next week. And so in a way, the game companies are kind of like competing on their past selves. And once upon a time, the game companies were producing some pretty amazing stuff, and I'm talking about even the AAA titles. I mean, you have to remember that Electronic Arts, right? Now they're going to go private. They were bought out and they're going to go private. But once upon a time, Electronic Arts was a kind of like United Artists movie studio, which was about artists coming together and producing, having a company that would produce their stuff, and that would allow them to produce stuff with merit instead of just stuff that would make money. Now, ironically, years later, all those guys got pushed out, and what was left was just a bunch of empty corporate suits that just did the empty corporate suit thing, which is, got to keep the shareholders happy. So if X works, then 3X, 4X, 5X, 10X has got to work more, right? And there you go. And then, of course, it's all about maximizing your bottom line. So if somebody's willing to pay for something, maybe they're willing to pay for some extras afterwards. And then it's a matter of, well, let's give them a little less and charge them a little more and see what happens. And let's do it again. And find where the boundary is. As consumer, we've hated that stuff, but as consumers, we apparently went along with it often enough that they kept it up, right? And it's a huge company. Anyhow, this is what I'm getting at is, actually, I don't know how he got here. He drifted quite a bit, but yeah. Anyway, so going back to what I was originally talking about, if you've got it's raining, I think, outside. So if you got some storylines that you've watched, right? It doesn't have to be big on movies or whatever. I mean, I read some great science fiction stories, not even books, right? Just some short stories and stuff. There's all sorts of different forms that they come in. So if you just got something out there that you really, really enjoyed, you think maybe not everybody has had a chance to see it yet, share it out with the rest of us. Okay, this is going to be one level higher, but it's going to have a slab on top. If I got him. Yeah, I got him. Like so. There we go. And I'm going to need to make it much more concrete, but that's just going to be a recurring theme in this show, right? It's just like, oh, it's been 5 minutes. It's time to make more concrete. You want to talk about crazy numbers, amounts of concrete. Look up the Hoover Dam, which is a big dam. And then look up the, if you go to the Wikipedia, I'm pretty sure they list how much concrete they used to make that thing. And it will blow your mind. Concrete is pretty amazing stuff. Okay, and I'm already at the point I need more. So let's take a look at this. Oh boy. Again? Okay. Anytime you want to come drop on down, I'm ready for you. When they make that noise like that, it usually means they see ya. Oops, that's not right. Ooh, you know what? Maybe I could use these chipped slabs as filler, like so. And then we could use regular light concrete slabs, or not. Yeah, that's right. You can use two of the same slab, but you can't mix your slabs. Oh, oil and vinegar. Okay. Let's everybody back out of the pool. Anyway. Yeah, I hear ya. Yeah, I hear ya, man. It's like when your dog's hungry. Nothing else in the world matters. Okay. What he reminds me of that Paperboy from the movie Better Off Dead, right? $2. Just want my $2. Okay. Back off, kid. Wow. That takes me back. You know, it's kind of the movies from the 80s, of course. In the 80s, I was a teenager, and so I watched a lot of movies in the 80s. And it was, kind of like the golden age of cable TV. So we had access to lots of movies, some of which you would watch dozens of times because it was on dozens of times during the month. But I love those movies. And then now as my girls have come into become teenagers on their own right, I'm thinking, I'd love them to watch these movies, and we even watch a few together. But then oh my gosh, the 80s, right? Some of those movies, they are pretty cringeworthy because it was a different world then, right? So like 16 Candles, you have an 18-year-old who is starting to, a 16-year-old fantasizing about an 18-year-old, and the 18-year-old starting to think some pretty, driven thoughts about the 16-year-old. And he's like, whoa, hold it. This isn't, as a kid, teenager, and was watching it, that was all perfectly normal. And it's very typical of the teenage movies of the day. But now, as an adult in the 2020s, I watched that over again. Farmer Ted is showing the other kids the girl's underpants that he had gotten a hold of, and it's like, whoa, gosh, when in an age where we're talking about consent, respect, and boundaries, and whoa, gosh, it's very different. Of course, we are slipping backwards now, so maybe that won't be a big deal. I hope not, but it may be, if you ever saw Highlander, I liked Highlander, the first movie, then they did more movies and those bit, but the Quickening, right, where McLeod was like, somehow he became this guy who was helping society come up with this shield that blocking us from the sun, if I remember correctly, and yet somehow that was sending all of our thoughts and popular culture backwards in time, like we were culturally devolving. Like I said, it was it was pretty bad, but it just got me wondering. I mean, you know, it was bad, but now that the age we live in, I'm thinking part of what made it bad is like, that's silly. You know, I still think it's silly, but unfortunately, the silliness might be perfectly real. Oh, it's bad. It's bad. Yeah, that's Angus over there. Oh, I didn't think that would work. I thought it would be a 2x2, but it did work. Okay. Yeah, you know, one of the things that I think is becoming pretty clear here is I need more storage, and what I'm hoping to do is to get the central core up high enough that we could build some storage, some permanent storage. And of course, the rate things are going, that day may come sooner than later. Oh, looking at the time, I don't really have enough time to go make a bunch more light gray concrete. So let's go take a gander at what we've completed and talk about next steps. So and there we go. It actually looks like a cube farm, cubicle farm. Expect some guy to be taking a call in one of those, but this is looking good. So I think we've established pretty firmly the look and feel of our underground levels, right? And I think it's something I can definitely live with. I think I need to put some more drains in the roadway here, but we are on our way. And you know, and when you lay this over the plan, the grid plan that I showed you before, now hopefully it all kind of comes together, makes more sense. But I'm excited about this, and you know, not only do as we go up, not only are we going to hit storage, which I need to. The next level up is going to be the one that has this is our Metro Concourse. I mean, our Metro platforms. The next level up will be the concourse, and we will have our nether portals, right? I don't think we don't have Aether in this one, so just another portal. But that's a whole new level of wackiness. I don't think the nether is impacted by the Lost Cities mod. It might be. That would be way spooky, spookier even, but I don't think so. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. But that would also open up a lot of resources for us. The possibility of getting crying obsidian would be huge, but that's a story for another day. So until that time. I hope that this finds you and yours in good health, good spirits, and perhaps just a touch of good fortune. Cheers.